Okay, it looks like you can go ahead.
All right. Well, welcome to everybody. I'm going to call the Heritage Barrie Committee to order. And I'm working at a bit of a disadvantage because I'm working on a different computer and I can't see everybody. So if you want to speak, you will have to let me know. So that's, we'll see how that works. Otherwise, I'll have to switch to another computer another night. The only thing that I wanted to just say at the outset is that
Cheryl, I'm having problems here.
Oh, you're not on mute, Tammy.
We can hear you, Tammy.
I don't know what's going on.
Are we struggling here with something?
Well, that's okay. Would you click on him up here and go like this, that arrow?
Sorry, mute. My apologies.
All right. All right. So what I wanted to just say at the outset, and I know that each one of you have already know this, but I just wanted if there's anybody listening or watching of the public, we have received the resignation of Christine Mainwell, and for health reasons, and every one of us, of course, wishes her the very, very best. And certainly I want to thank her for all her work that she's done on this committee, and also all the previous committees. I know she was heavily involved in the HNS last term, and before that as well. So yeah, all our thoughts are with her, and so yeah, we're going to be running with one person short for a little while. But I'm yeah, I guess all of our thoughts are with Christine. We're also arbitrarily changing the agenda order a little bit. The second item was going to be signage in the historic downtown, and we're going to move that up to the beginning because we have Jason Forgrave with us, and he is going to talk to us about that. So Jason, I can't see you, but I'm assuming you're there, and the floor is yours.
Actually, I'm here just as the, I guess, subject matter expert for the sign bylaw. Kind of last minute, that's why they had to bump it up for me. I know Thomas from planning is here, and I believe he's probably going to talk to it more than I am.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, well, then let's deal with that item first since you're here, and that way we can let you go as well. I circulated, just in order to sort of have a framework for discussion, I circulated a motion that we could move. We don't have to, but I wanted to just get everybody thinking on this subject. The matter has arisen because we've had over the last couple of years a few sign applications, and there's been a few as well that have gone up without an application, and the thought was that we should try to think about how to deal with signage in the downtown area as well as signage on historic buildings, and see if we can develop some kind of a philosophy of that or regulations on that. And we do have a sign bylaw here in the city, and I guess Jason, you're the person that enforces that bylaw. I'm not sure who does the work in amending that bylaw. Is that you, Thomas, or is that your area, Jason, as well?
The current bylaw is enforcement services area.
Ah, okay. All right. So you've seen the draft of the motion, and I just put it together just for discussion purposes. And it says that city staff be requested to review the sign bylaw and make recommendations to Heritage Barrie with respect to signage in the downtown area and on designated historic buildings. The objective of the review is to develop signage guidelines that are in keeping with the historic character of the area and buildings. All right, I saw Kathy with a hand, but if any of you also need to speak, then make sure you let me know, because I can see Kathy for the moment. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, I actually just had a question, and this might go to Jason, because at some point I thought that there was a separate signage bylaws for the downtown business area. And are you able to confirm that? Like, there's an overall sign bylaw, but is there one that's specific to the downtown core currently?
There's a section in the current bylaw that states to special sign districts.
Right.
And currently the only one we have is the downtown BIA. It outlines the geographical boundaries for that. And then some of the other sections of the bylaw speak to certain setbacks and sizes of signs in that district.
Oh,
All right, Kathy, follow up?
so do we need to look at what specifically is for that geographical like we need to, in order to do something, we need to actually know and understand where that covers, that geographical location covers, and understand what's already currently written, because maybe a lot of what's already written is we don't need to address. I'm not sure.
All right, well, I think Jason answered part of that, and that there is the area is defined as the same area as is covered by the BIA.
Okay.
And I guess, Jason, maybe you could just give us a high level outline, if you could, on the the difference between the sign regulations within that area and outside of that area.
Certainly.
Are you? Oh yeah, thanks.
Some of the, sorry, my mouse was sticking. Most of the changes have to do with temporary advertising. Right now with the mobile sign, A-frame signs or sandwich board signs. They have certain size designations and setbacks because of the pedestrian walkways downtown. They can't be out at the curb. They have to be snug up against the building, certain things like that. There's also a section that talks about signs not overhanging municipal property. So blade signs, for example, the signs that come out from a 90-degree angle from a building are not necessarily permitted unless there's some sort of encroachment agreement with legal services at the city. That's about it. There's not a lot of other stuff that is truly specific to the downtown, other than placement of mobile signs, the large 4x8 mobile signs. A lot of the other stuff just falls into the general sign bylaw.
Jason, maybe I can just ask the following. For example, is there a distinction in the historic area versus the other areas about how a sign is attached to a building? Because of course that's one of our concerns sometimes is damage to the building as a result of multiple sign installations.
Currently there isn't anything in the sign bylaw about that, no.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments on that? Craig?
I was just going to say, you're asking city staff to look into guidelines, and I'm sure that they're going to look at maybe some of the other cities for their ideas about the historic area. So, if we get a report back, I think that that's only going to help us kind of come up with the guidelines. So I think that's a great idea. So.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Anybody else? Kathy, I see your hand.
So do we need to be sort of any more specific? So for instance, on a currently, I think, and maybe Thomas, you might be able to just confirm this. I think on a designated building, on a building that is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, you have to have council's approval to put signage up.
Yes, that's correct.
I think that's on a designated.
I would say that, through the chair, that I think we'd have to look at the designating bylaw of each building, and to see if the brick in the exterior of the building is a listed feature. Because if it's not, they could alter that feature or whatever it is without getting permission. If committee members, we had staff come to talk to us about a transom and a window at the South Shore Center, and the part that they were actually replacing was not listed. It was the window above that was listed as a feature of that building. So out of an abundance of caution, the staff came and sought permission of this committee to make that change. But if alterations being made to an element of a building that is not listed, I don't think there's a requirement to get permission from council to alter that building, or alter that, whatever it happens to be, if they're installing it near a window, or if they're installing it on a frame, or if they're installing it in brick. The one sign that we have reviewed, I believe on 70 and 72 Dunlop, that one came to the committee because the brick is specifically listed as a heritage attribute. So that's the reason why it came to the committee.
So,
Okay. All right. Yeah, then that's an important distinction. Not all signage on all heritage buildings will be part of what we have to deal with. But all right, Kathy, follow up.
Jim, did you want to go first? Because you had your hand up there. You can.
Okay, I can't see everybody, so
Yeah. So if Jim wants to go first, and then I have a follow up, I guess.
Okay, thanks,
Sure, Jim.
thanks, Kathy. That's very kind, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question, maybe through you to, maybe it's for Thomas or it could be Jason. And it's just more to manage expectations. I have no issues with the motion that was shared. I just was wondering, for the knowledge of the committee, if we did move this and approve this, what's the rough time frame? I understand there's a lot in the queue, so to get a review of the sign bylaw and recommendations back, what are they looking at as far as time frame? Roughly, I know you can't nail you down a time frame, but what would the rough time frame be? Thank you.
all right, Jason, do you have an answer, or Thomas?
I guess it would depend, Mr. Chair, on whether a new bylaw is constructed just for the heritage signs, heritage building signs, or if we're amending the current sign bylaw. If it's the current sign bylaw that I would be amending, I've got 2 other amendments I'm doing right now to other bylaws. So it wouldn't be immediate. We would have to definitely do some research and see what would need to be done, and then work at the staff report and work at the bylaw itself. If a new bylaw was being done through planning or something like that, then that could be quicker, longer. I'm not sure. I see Thomas has his hands up, so I'll let him speak.
Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. In addition to what Jason was saying, in addition to the process or the administrative process of getting a bylaw through, there's also time to actually go out and do the research, look at other examples, put together something that the committee is happy with. So there'd be some consultation with the committee. We'd probably want to reach out to groups like the BIA and get their input on things, just so we have some sort of community consultation on that. So there's some legwork that we have to do ahead of before we even get into the queue of going to council with something. So realistically, there's probably a few months of work on the committee's behalf to be able to get to that point even.
Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah, sorry.
and I now I figured out how to see everybody, so that should make life a little easier for us tonight. Did you want to follow up on that, Councillor Harris?
Yeah, just to say thank you. And I knew it would be a process, and just to manage expectation, it wasn't going to happen in a few weeks. We know it's a process of months. So thank you for that answer to both Jason and Thomas. Thank you.
Yeah, I would certainly think that there's a process involved, and I'm sure staff would consult with the BIA and do some research in terms of what other municipalities do and all of that kind of thing too. So yeah, there's a fair bit of work involved. So I wouldn't expect it at our next meeting, that's for sure. All right, Kathy, did you have something else?
Yeah, and Mike, and another question, and maybe it will come as a result of talking to the BIA and getting their input as well, is I think, part of, and Claire, certainly you and I have talked about this, and I think, other people within the group are, when we see those big signs up on the sides of buildings that aren't even, they're doing payday loans or something that's totally irrelevant to anything that's even in our downtown core. I mean, could it be so specific that, that we're saying that we don't want any of those big board signs up on, because they really do clutter up and distract from the beauty of those buildings downtown?
Yeah, I think that if you look at the bylaw, it divides signs into sort of two big categories. One of them is an advertising sign or a billboard, and another one is an identification sign, one that says, this is Joe's Pizza Shop. And so I think what you're talking about, Kathy, is the advertising or the billboard signs. And yeah, I mean, our bylaw currently permits those signs under certain circumstances. And I think that, this review that we're asking staff to do would probably, one of the things is they would think about that and come back to us and make a recommendation. So, and of course that has impacts. And so I think, certainly this committee needs to look at it through the lens of heritage, but I'm sure that, once it gets up to council, that council will think about it in terms of lenses of all kinds of things. And that's why I think it's a really good idea to involve, say, the BIA and others who have an interest in the downtown. And historic buildings as well. I mean, we have other historic buildings that are not in the downtown, and I think we want to think about that as well. Tammy, did you want to say something?
Yes, did the committee actually put the motion on the floor, like that motion?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay,
Not yet.
all right. Because I have a little bit of a revised wording that might help a little bit, so just
Okay.
keeping in mind.
All right, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as a point of clarification, under the current sign bylaw, poster panel signs, those ones like the billboards for third-party advertising, are permitted on vacant lands. The ones that are down there were grandfathered at the time of the passing of the bylaw. So there shouldn't be any new billboard signs popping up in the downtown core, as they are prohibited.
Okay, well, that's a good clarification. And I'm sure that, when the review comes back, I mean, the committee will no doubt be interested in asking about that. All right, Tammy, you had some suggestions as well.
So you had a motion, Councillor Rietma?
Oh, yes. Can I have somebody just put that on the floor so that we can actually chat about it? All right, Craig, thank you. All right, go ahead, Tammy.
I know that your recommendation you had, but we have some revised wording that maybe that might be more suitable.
Sure.
That staff in the Development Services Department, in consultation with Enforcement Services, develop guidelines for the installation of signage on heritage buildings in the BIA, report back to Heritage Barrie, and once any guidelines are approved, staff review implementing these into this sign bylaw.
Oh, Well, I couldn't write that fast, but that's fine. You all heard that.
I can say it again if you'd like.
But that's probably a much better wording than what I had. But thank you for that, Tammy. All right. Any discussion on that motion? Kathy?
Sorry. I just had, when it specifies heritage buildings, when they actually look at, are they going to look at all of the downtown buildings, whether it's a heritage building or not?
That's the intention, is that we
Right.
would look at everything downtown and
So
any
would
heritage
the wording
buildings.
have to reflect that?
Yes, and I think Tammy's wording captures that.
Okay.
Do you want to read that again, Tammy?
That staff in the Development Services Department, in consultation with Enforcement Services, develop guidelines for the installation of signage on heritage buildings in the BIA and report back to Heritage Barrie. And once any guidelines are approved, staff review implementing these into the sign bylaw.
All right.
So
Yes, Kathy, go ahead. You sound like you want to say something.
sorry, I think Thomas has his hand up.
Okay, Thomas.
Thomas has his hand, and then I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay, thank
Thomas.
you, Chair. So it just sounds like the motion that Tammy has read out to us is sort of a two-staged approach. First, we would develop some guidelines around what we would like to see, and then step two would be taking parts of those guidelines and actually making them, implementing them through the bylaw. And I think in those guidelines, we'd have because it's a guideline, we would have the leeway of describing what we're after and what we mean by heritage building.
Okay.
We'd be able to identify sort of the area where that applies generally. It's sort of the nice thing about a guideline is that it can be a little bit more qualitative in that regard, and only the nuts and bolts make its way into the zoning, into the sign bylaw. And if there's ever any confusion or anything like that, we can always reference the guideline and say, oh, this is what we meant by this and that.
Yeah, I do like that approach myself. But any other, Kathy, you wanted to say something, I think?
No, Thomas just sort of touched base on it.
Oh, good.
About the guideline part of it, because the way I heard what was read was it was about, the installation of heritage signs, but then where do the guidelines fit in? But Thomas, I think, just sort of addressed that.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on that motion? And we do need it as a motion because it'll go up to the city building and then on to council, and eventually it'll get approved, and that'll give staff direction as to what to do. All right. Any further discussion on that motion? All right. Those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That's carried. All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Jason, for your help on that one. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of this exciting meeting, but you're also excused if you like.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My pleasure.
All right. Thank you. All right. The second item, which was the first item, is a presentation concerning development application review process. And I'm sure that that's Thomas. So the floor is yours, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I have a very short presentation. I'm going to share my screen in a moment. And before I do, just wanted to give the committee some background. So I think last year, when we were developing the 2020 work plan, on that work plan was for me to give the committee a excuse me, an overview of the development application review process. So all those applications, like zoning bylaws and things like that go before council. It's really a crash course because I've got 7 slides or so, and I'll probably be talking for about 15 minutes. So it's really intended to just give you a really, really broad overview, and intended to help the committee understand where the committee fits into that development review process. So without further ado, I will share my screen, and I will try to do this properly without losing the committee and sharing the wrong screen. So share screen number 2. Okay, share. Now everybody should be seeing, where is everybody here? I did this wrong last time. Okay, so everybody should be seeing just the slide that says Development Applications 101. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay. So everybody knows who I am, but for those who are watching, my name is Thomas Grisba. I am a planner with the Development Services Department, and I'm also the Heritage Barrie staff liaison. And I'm presenting this presentation via Zoom. So slide 1. So this is just a general outline of what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to focus on the basics of the difference between legislation and policy and what they mean. We're going to talk about what a development application is. We're going to talk about the different types of applications as well as their approval streams and the role of sort of Heritage Barrie in the context of a development application proceeding through the approvals process. And then you'll have me to answer some of your questions as well. So pardon the wordiness of this slide, but there's some important information here. And the first one, main one really, in the planning world, legislation is king and the Planning Act is the emperor. And what it does is it defines the mechanisms and processes for regulating use of land in all of Ontario. So it applies everywhere. And what it does is the Planning Act enables the province to create essentially a policy framework for land use planning in Ontario. And that planning policy framework consists of plans and regulations. And plans are not legislation in themselves, they are policy documents. And there's different plans that apply to different parts of Ontario. Some of them, which I'll talk about in just a minute, you'll be familiar with, because I think I would have mentioned them before when we were reviewing development applications at the committee. So in terms of the provincial context, specifically to Barrie, where we are, there's a number of planning policy documents that apply. The Provincial Policy Statement is a really, really broad-reaching document. The Places to Grow Act, sorry, that's the act that enabled a place to grow, a growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. So it's also policy. Other examples that you may not be familiar with are the South Georgian Bay Lake Simcoe Region Source Water Protection Plan. That is a policy document as well that was implemented through legislation. And like I said, and there's others, and I'm not going to go through all of them. And not all of those plans pertain to land use planning. There's other ones that pertain to transportation. There's other ones that pertain to environmental protection, such as the Walk Ridges Marine Plan and many others. But these are the principal ones that apply to Barrie. And as planning staff are reviewing development applications, these are the documents that come up consistently. The Planning Act, along with other legislation such as the Municipal Act, enables municipalities to develop their own policy framework. And this municipal level of policy framework has to be consistent with the provincial policy framework. So we can't really step out of line. We have to be consistent with the province. That is sort of the card we're dealt, being municipalities, and municipalities being literally creatures of the province. We exist because the province has created us. And Barrie's municipal planning context consists of the city's official plan, the city's zoning bylaw, as well as the town of Innisfil zoning bylaw, which only applies to lands that were annexed from Innisfil back in 2010. And some of those lands are, as they're developed, they're rezoned and absorbed into the city of Barrie zoning bylaw. So that's a bit of a unique case in Ontario, where staff that work in the city of Barrie are implementing town of Innisfil zoning bylaw. There's other elements to the city's planning policy framework, such as community improvement plans and things like our site control bylaw. And that's not the whole entire thing. This is just sort of what we work with on a day-to-day basis. So now we'll get into what a development application really is. And it can be, and it's really a broad term that defines or that captures the the change of use of land, sort of the subdividing of land to create new lots for sale, and the construction of buildings and structures. And this last one, the construction of building and structures, is a little unique because it has a tangible connection to the Ontario Building Code, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Development applications are subject to review and evaluated against the provincial and municipal policy framework that I mentioned earlier. Timelines and processes for the review of development applications is dictated by the Planning Act, so it's not a municipal thing. The municipalities can't establish their own timelines to processing development application. Planning staff review development applications to make sure to provide recommendations regarding the approval of said development applications. The decision is then made by a committee or council. And building and demolition permits are actually governed by the Ontario Building Code, which is legislation, and they're not development applications in the land use planning context. And what sometimes causes a little bit of confusion is a development application called site plans. Site plans are not a public process. They're actually handled. They're delegated to staff, and a property owner who's looking to build onto a property that is subject to site plan control has to have site plan approval before they get building permit. And sometimes people mix up the two. They think that, okay, you're getting site plan, you're getting your building permit, and that's not the case. You have to get the planning thing, which is the site plan, approved first, and then you can get your building permit. And without further ado, we'll talk about some of the different applications, the different application types and their approval streams. So you can see there's three general groups. There's applications on the left, which are subject to council approval. So those are your big applications, your official plan amendments, zoning bylaws, draft plans of subdivision. Those can be delegated to staff in some instances as well as draft plan of condominium. Site plan control, again, can be delegated to staff as well as product control. And then there's a committee, of course, the Committee of Adjustment, which makes decisions regarding the zoning bylaw. So if somebody's looking to sever, you go through the Committee of Adjustment, and if you're looking for a variance to vary from the standards of the zoning bylaw, you would go to the Committee of Adjustment as well. And there's some development applications that are processed pretty much exclusively by staff of the City of Barrie anyway, which are pre-consultation applications. Now, these aren't development applications in their own sense. They're a review process that allows staff to provide comment on a development proposal before it's actually accepted. And that's an important thing because through this process, we tell applicants or developers or property owners what they need to do before they submit an application. For example, if you're developing on a greenfield land and there's some water features there, will likely require an environmental impact study to be done to support your application, because that study will actually define the limits of that environmental feature, and it may require environmental mitigation measures to protect that environmental features over the long term. So we don't want an application to come in, accept that application, and then wait for a study to have to be done. We'd rather that study to be done ahead of time, and then the complete application be submitted to the city for review. Site plan control, I mentioned, is unique because it can be delegated to staff. So if property is subject to site plan control, and site plan control is regulated by the city's own site plan control bylaw, then you would pre-consult with the city, and once you've done the pre-consultation process, you'll be able to apply for site plan. There's one thing that's actually missing from that list, which is exemption from full site plan control. In this case, it would apply to a property that is subject to site plan control, but the development that's proposed is very, very minor. For example, like replacing like canopies that cover entrances, maybe even parking lot expansions and things like that. Or if you're moving your waste collection facility from one side of the building to another, that may be subject to exemption, which is just a shorter process, doesn't involve as many people. And part lot control is essentially a process for creating new lots that that were part of a larger block that was established through a plan of subdivision. So there would have been a public process, which would have been that draft plan of subdivision. And sometimes draft plans of subdivision, they'll create larger future development blocks. And those future development blocks are then subdivided through part lot control. They don't have to be, but they can be. And at a really high level, this is sort of the summary of the development applications that staff process on a day-to-day basis. And this screen should have some animations. If I did this right, there we go. So the stars are actually showing the development applications that the committee can get involved in, or committees, heritage committees can get involved in. And really, really the committees get involved at the point for council approval applications anyway, when those applications are deemed complete. So if somebody's coming in to amend the official plan to permit their development, they will have to go through the pre-consultation process first, but that process or the pre-consultation process is confidential. It's not a public process. So you wouldn't see that application at that time. You'd only see that application once it's been deemed complete and a notice of complete application has been issued to the public. And at that point, I would bring the application to the committee and we would discuss it. And we don't get this very often, but I believe last year I brought 2 applications to the committee for consent, I believe there was a consent application and somebody was doing a minor variance on a property. And I bring those applications to the committee when there's a development application adjacent to a listed or designated building. And the same would go for council buildings. Sorry, this phone keeps buzzing. I put it on silent, but it keeps going. The one thing that I also have to note is that the committee may be asked to comment on applications that are not part of the public process, such as site plans, if those applications are adjacent to mapped cultural heritage resources. For example, 79 Collier Street, the committee would remember is adjacent to a designated heritage building. And that building is being built through the site plan process. So the application for that property is not public. It's just being processed by staff. But we got the committee involved because of that cultural heritage resource being right next door. So I already sort of touched on this about where the committee can get involved, but this slide really pertains to what we would do when we would get involved. So as Heritage Barrie is an advisory committee, it is to advise council on matters related to heritage, and at times on development applications if there is an impact on a cultural heritage resource. So if the committee provides comment on an application, those comments should really focus around two main streams, essentially. One would be assisting council with matters related to or under the Ontario Heritage Act and application of, in effect, land use policy. So the first one, the assisting with matters related to the Ontario Heritage Act, this is where the committee would provide comments where there is potential impact on a listed or designated cultural heritage resource, like 79 Collier Street, or development or this committee of adjustment applications I had mentioned. Committees may also advise on development applications that are within a heritage conservation district. So we don't have that in Barrie, but if we did, the committee may be involved in commenting on those applications. And the second stream, the application of in effect land use policy, really would apply when the committee wants to ensure the application of section 3.4 of the official plan, which is the policy, the section that deals with cultural heritage conservation. or there's another section of the official plan, which is the historic neighborhood defined policy area, that the committee could comment or rely on to provide comment on a development application. So those are the sort of the two main streams of where, anyways, I would steer the committee in getting involved on the development side of things. And one thing that is sort of unique is that Barrie has the Allendale Urban Design Guidelines. Those urban design guidelines are actually implemented by staff at the staff level, because we have in Barrie 2 site plan control bylaws. One is a general that applies to a broad area of the city, and one that applies specifically to certain areas of Allendale. And we implement those bylaws. So you may not see those come in because we have pretty clear direction on what we need to do, because we have those guidelines. And that's it. I mean, I'm just over 15 minutes. So I'm now available for any questions. I can go back to any slide that the committee wants me to, and I can answer questions. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Thomas. That's a great overview. Any questions or comments for Thomas? And again, at this point, I can't see everybody. So, oh, I think that's going to change. Kathy, your hand is up.
I just wanted to clarify something, Thomas. So you're saying that planning looks at, there's one that's the Allendale, which was originally done as a beta test or a pilot project, if you will, originally when they were trying to figure out how to come up with guidelines. And then the scope of that was supposedly was to be rolled out across all the historic neighborhoods. So if I understand what you're saying is that you're still looking at it just specifically for the Allendale area?
That's correct. So as of today,
Right.
there was an application that came in along Burton Avenue. That
Right.
application for anything, even a building permit, would be subject to review against those Allendale urban design guidelines.
Okay.
All right, Kathy, follow up.
So within the Allendale's area, it doesn't cover all of Allendale, because I think they were very specific about, like it's not covering homes on a lot of the homes on Cumberland Street. It doesn't cover a lot of the homes on Holgate or William Street. So it's very limited in terms of when you're looking at it from the Allendale perspective. Is there any thought, or through the new official plan, is it going to cover off, are we going to look at it like across the board for all historic neighborhoods? I don't know if do you understand what I'm trying to get at?
Yep,
Because
I
that was
do.
originally like a pilot project, and there's just a small amount, a small number of houses in Allendale. And that was then that was supposed to be rolled out across the board everywhere. And that never happened. So is that, like, will that happen with the new official plan?
So the draft official plan that's out
Yes.
as of today does have policies, urban design guidelines and urban design policies that apply to all of the historic neighborhoods.
Right. And are they all of the ones that were in the Allendale area were they taken out and applied to everywhere?
You mean those guidelines?
Yes.
So we didn't necessarily do a copy and paste of those guidelines. Those guidelines are good that they are there. We do not find them to be, they just do not provide enough direction, if I could say that. So what we've done is we've actually built on those, and we've expanded them quite a bit in the draft official plan. So your language is defining them as beta is probably accurate, and we've moved quite a bit beyond those in the draft official plan.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Thomas? Okay. Well, thank you, Thomas. That was very helpful.
My pleasure.
Now, the next item is the committee budget. And I did circulate that a little bit earlier and messed around with it a little bit from what we had before when I became aware that we had only 3 designated buildings that needed signs yet, plaques. So 3 at 600 came down to $1,800. And then I just adjusted that and took the extra money out of that and put it onto street signs for historic neighborhoods. And of course, we don't have anywhere near enough money in our budget to do all of those historic signs for the street signs. But we can do some. So I'll throw it open for discussion. I don't know that we really need to finalize anything. I mean, we are at liberty to move things around during the year as we see fit. So any thoughts on the budget as I've put it together, and any commentary on that? Kathy?
Just one question on designations. So if we want to designate a property or a house, does that come out of our budget, heritage budget, or does that come through planning budget? Because when you do a designation on a house, does that not have to be done by an accredited historian?
Yes, we need a consultant to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I've added the $6,000 there to do that for 2 buildings. And those are just, picked out of the air. And I think, Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, that there is some money in the planning budget that could support that as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, there is at the discretion of the director, support for the committee's sort of strategic initiatives that we can't fully cover on our own. There is support for that. Yes. Okay,
so that's great. And instead of designating 2 buildings, maybe we could designate 4 under that kind of thing. Craig?
I think it's great that we're able to do some of these projects. The ones about the plaques for the listed buildings. So we're getting quite a few, which is great. How are we going to determine, like, how do we start with, if there's, I don't know how many there are, probably almost 30 now. If we're going to do 10, kind of what do you think our process is going to be for determining which ones we do? So that's my question.
All right, that's a fair question. Any comments on that? Kathy?
I thought at one time we talked about starting from the date of listing. So the earliest, if you go back to the earliest date of listed house, that we should start at the beginning and then work our way to the most current. But I'm not sure if everybody agreed with that, but we did talk about that at one point. So starting at the beginning, so if the first listed house was in 1997, then we would go and we would start from the list. Because is the list numerical by bylaw? No. Okay, so we would have to.
Yeah, and I suppose there's no particular magic in where we start, but we do have to pick, and maybe we start at the earliest one, or we could start at the most recent one and work back.
Yeah.
Kaylee?
Maybe one option to do would be just to reach out to all the listed properties and see if they want a sign, and then do from there, because not everybody might want one. So depending on how many there are to reach out to.
Sure. Thomas?
Yeah, I was just going to make that suggestion, Kaylee. It's a great point. I think in our review of the list, the designated buildings, not all the property owners were keen. I think there's probably just one actually that comes to mind, but that's right. And I don't think everybody's going to want to have that a plaque on their property. Although I may be wrong. So that's definitely a good start, just to reach out to all the property owners, regardless of when it was listed. We might even want to put something on our website, you know, that we are doing this program and we're reaching out. So if you see your neighbor have one and you don't have one, it's probably just because we ran out of money for that year, and we'll get to you when we can. Because not everybody knows that they can contact me, so it's good to have that information out.
Craig.
I was just gonna say, my house was one of the listed, so is that a pecuniary interest? I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't want to get in trouble, but, so.
I don't think so. I don't think that the plaque has got that much value attached to it that you'll do something criminal to get it.
Yeah.
Kathy, you had.
I was gonna say, how would we reach out, like via, we did a nice letter of invitation to homeowners to put their house on a list. Would we be sending out a letter to all of the listed property owners?
I think that might be an easy way, rather than me making phone calls. Just use the tax roll and get the addresses and send them all out. It would be a you know, dear property owner type thing. We wouldn't address it to each one.
Yeah, I think that that would get us however many right off the bat, and then, you know, we can fill in the blanks later on. So I think that is a good suggestion. What about the 3 designated buildings that we still have to do? Should we follow up on those and get those done first, or get those done also? Any, Thomas?
I was just going to say, Chair, that we can just do the same process for those 3. Just send the individual letter out and see. That's it. So I was just going to say, who if they respond, then we'll get them assigned.
Sure. Okay. Is that Kathy?
Yeah. What are the 3 outstanding addresses, Thomas? Are you able to share that? Which were the 3?
Just 1 second. I got to find my list. I'm taking notes at the same time as trying to.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we have the list from 2020 plaques. Okay, so I think 105 Toronto Street was one, 16-18 Mary, and then 70 and 72 Dunlop. Those are the 3 that are still outstanding in terms of getting a plaque.
Correct.
Okay.
I think 16 to 18 Mary Street, I think that's the one I went to. One of them has a plaque on the front. I think it's that one. Or maybe that's the one they didn't want a plaque. So
I thought, honestly, and maybe if we went back and looked at the recorded, I think if 16 to 18 was yours, Craig, I think you did say 16 to 18 said they didn't want one.
Right.
That
Thomas?
That would be my recollection as well, because I do have an asterisk saying that they wouldn't be interested in one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Well, then we have 2 other ones that we should contact. All right. So in summary, Thomas, if you can then contact those 2 for the designated buildings, and then send out letters for all our listed buildings, and see how many fish we catch.
Awesome. Good.
All right. Good. All right. Let's move on then to the next item on our agenda, the 2021 work plan review. And Thomas, I think you have that.
I do, Chair. Let me just pull it up here. I'm going to try to do this sharing screen thing again. Road plan, I can share that. And there we go. So I think the last time we left off here, so I lost everybody. There we go. I don't know how to make this work. Okay. I'm sorry, I can't see everybody, so please let me know if you get your hand up for a question, or hopefully the chair will. So we've looked at, I believe we looked at the first nine items at the very least. The ones that still have the yellow highlight are ones that still need some information in terms of commitments, goals, deliverables, resources, budget allocation, and so on and so forth. Some of them are going to be in the air just by nature of what's going on out in the world. For example, Doors Open, Open Air Dunlop, Celebrate Barrie. Those things we're not entirely sure if they're going to happen, so I've got them flagged as unknown if those are going to be held. But as we move on, there's a couple of things here. For example, we were just talking about designating new buildings. Now I've got this column is for lead and team. We don't necessarily need to, but if the committee wants to, we can identify sort of a point person on this. I feel as though because I am sending out the letters and I'm getting in touch with vendors, I think that might be myself.
Yes, I think that makes the most sense.
I'm going to put and support from chair, especially if we need to contact a property owner. Sometimes they want to have conversations, so it'd be good to have somebody there.
For sure.
Oh, I think I see Chair. I see Kaylee's got her hand up there.
I'm sorry?
I think Kaylee just had her hand up.
Oh, did she? Oh, Kaylee, go ahead.
There, if I can figure out how to work to unmute. I sort of had a point on that and sort of went with the listed buildings. I wondered if we wanted to send out a letter as well to all these listed buildings, along with or asking if they want to sign with information and see if any of them would want to transfer to being designated at the same time.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely amend the letter just to add that in there.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I do too. Good one.
Yeah. That way, hey, you get two birds with one stone, or one stamp.
Okay.
That's great.
There's just while we're on the item here, I did identify $2,500 to $5,000 for the 2021 initiative. Seeing as they were $499, that would give us about 10 or so if we went with $5,000. So it's just a commitment from the committee. Is that an appropriate range? Do we want to put that range up? And that's something for the committee to determine.
Now, but this has to do with the designating of new buildings, right?
Sorry, that's correct. I apologize, Chair. I got that confused. Yes. And I think in your budget you mentioned $6,000.
Yeah, that's what I put in our budget, and then we've got some staff planning department money as well, possibly.
Right.
So that's fine.
Okay, I will just leave that in there to make it in line with your budget for the year.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, there's one here I left out. Heritage media strategy. So I think this was something that Kathy was passionate about, so I threw her name in there. I think it would be fair to have at least another person to help with that. And so far, just the goals we have is leveraging media to promote cultural heritage preservation, but we don't really know what that actually looks like. Are we gonna ask our communications team to put out a monthly blast, or what are we actually gonna be delivering?
Well,
Sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
I thought at some point I had put, and I'll go back and find it. I'm pretty sure I sent an email sort of outlining what would be good to have, i.e., reaching out to, whether it's Facebook or whatever the departments are within, if it's Access Barrie now, that does social, contact Access Barrie. So I did do something because I did it around Doors Open. When we were doing Doors Open, we were trying to figure out how to get the message out.
Kathy, can I ask you to dig up that email that you did before and circulate it to the committee members, and then perhaps we could just put that on the agenda for the next meeting, and we can kind of thrash out what a media strategy should look like, and then we can start working on it. Is that a reasonable idea?
Yep.
Okay, appreciate that a lot.
So we'll leave this. So, Chair, I'll just leave this item blank, because if there is a cost, we'll know that once we get that document from Kathy, or the following meeting when we talk about it a little bit more in detail.
Sure. Yeah.
And be clear in your budget, didn't you put $1,000 for promotion? Is promotion / media? Or was that, or is that considered something else?
No, that it was just a round number for promotion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, flyers or whatever we want.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody does flyers anymore. Digital flyers.
Well, I think we, a part of it was last year we did spend some money on culture days and open doors and some of those things, and who knows whether that's going to happen this year. But at least we have a few dollars set aside for that. All right, culture days.
Culture days, yes, that is on the list, but it's one of those things. Is that we don't exactly know what's happening with that for 2021.
Yeah. So we'll just leave the question mark around it.
I think that's appropriate.
So having
Kathy, yeah.
Just having said that, typically it looks like the city in general, in terms of culture, and they are pivoting and doing virtual stuff. So I'm guessing that if they don't do a physical culture days, it'll be a virtual culture days. So maybe we should be thinking about virtual content.
Yep.
And that culture days is in September. It's always the same. I think it's like September 26th-ish or something like that.
Yeah. Kathy, actually, when you review your media strategy, perhaps you could amend it to include culture days and maybe some suggestions on that.
Mr. Chair, I just raised my hand. I don't know if you're able to see it.
Sorry, I didn't see you, Councillor Harris. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hit the raise the hand button, but I don't know if where it shows anyway. Thank you.
Didn't do anything for me. Sorry.
Thanks. Just quick, I just wanted to quickly reference item 12, photographs in the GO tunnel at the Allendale Waterfront Station. And
yes,
I know I mentioned, I had it worded as art project. And I just wanted to maybe with the committee's approval, that may be better worded as heritage art project in the GO tunnel at the Waterfront Station. And I reached out to the McLaren Art Center to partner in that. And we've moved forward with Metrolinx. There's a meeting on Friday to talk with McLaren and about this project. So if we could, it might be pictures, but I think it might be more than pictures. And just as a FYI, it talks about historical, photographs of Allendale, but the interest also includes Indigenous, because the original heritage obviously area is Indigenous. So it would be both Indigenous and the rail heritage with some sort of art project. Just wanted to let people know of that. Hopefully exciting but important change.
Yeah, I think that that's really wonderful, Jim. I think that's got a great potential there. Craig, you're on mute.
I know we were talking a lot about, I know it's in the future, but the new building that they're going to build where the GO station is. The idea that, if somehow when they're designing it, if they can have some sort of murals or even something on the floor or something, because it is less expensive to do it as you're building rather than to wait and then try to put it in later. So I don't know, that's a suggestion for staff or just to think about it, because I think that would make the building sort of unique too. So just, well, it's sort of in the same sort of idea, so.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. I think that's a great idea. Thomas, is that something that you can pass on to the designers of the transit hub? Or is that something that you need more direction on?
I think I can at least reach out to who I think is involved in that project and ask them what stage of design they're at, and see how we can get involved. Maybe somebody from that group can come and talk to the committee we can sort of share our thoughts with them.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, and just make a note to perhaps report back to us in our next meeting or the week meeting after that, just to let us know where that stands.
I can do that.
That would be perfect. Does anybody else have their hand up or need to talk? I can't see everybody, so holler. Okay, Thomas, then let's move on down the list.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just making a note here for myself.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay, just one quick question. Is there anything, any financial contribution we want to commit to this project? I mean, something like some sort of financial recognition or compensation to the artists or anything like that, or if we have to pay for something to be printed.
Councillor Harris, that might be a question you can answer.
Yeah, thank you. It's really interesting. We're kind of keeping our powder dry with the hope that Metrolinx is going to show up with the money to fund, if it's with McLaren as our partner coordinating the art, the heritage focused art, we might not have to pay a dime. So if the committee is okay with being patient, we're going to play that game first, and then we'll come right back to you if there's a way that we are required to financially contribute. But that will be our approach, is to not pay. Metrolinx pays everything. So
yeah, I like that approach a lot.
Thank you.
Kathy?
And originally when we had these discussions as the, because this started way back in 2011. So Metrolinx had approved and were going to gift us or pay for whatever we were going to come up with for the tunnel in by way of the photographs and them being printed and the baffles that they would be mounting them on. But one of the things that I want to also identify here is that certainly we may want to put something in the budget, because do we want to be seen as being a sponsor or a partner? Certainly the Allendale Neighborhood Association is going to be doing that, or is willing to do that, because we have been partnering and working hard, well, through the years with Metrolinx. So, we have money in our budget, and if we have, if we feel that we have to, in order to get our name associated with the project when it's open and there's something to say, sponsored by, if it's McLaren and Metrolinx and Allendale Neighborhood and Heritage Barrie, then maybe we'll have to do that.
All right, well, let's let Councillor Harris keep his powder dry for a while. And if we have to come in and contribute something, we can. And with that, at that point, we'd have to move something around in the budget. Okay. What's next on the to-do list there, Thomas?
Thank you, Chair. I think there's just two items Potentially, yeah, just 2 items. One being the public art and historic murals. And I think that was something, Craig, you had emailed me about, and you said you wanted to have it added onto the work plan. And it was just general art murals. If there's blank canvases somewhere, can the committee sort of help fund more art? And I think this was triggered by the boxes, the utility boxes that were wrapped. The committee really liked that and was interested in seeing some more of that.
Yeah.
So like you see, I don't really have much populated in here in terms of goals and deliverables and resources.
Yeah. So I was just going to say maybe the committee could identify, places in Barrie that potentially we could do this, and then we can figure out what sort of ideas, or maybe art students, or to be able to do that. I just think there's quite a few, especially in some of the like Allendale for sure. There are some ugly gray boxes that need something, and it's not only just heritage, but I think it would help with tourism and stuff.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Some prime locations coming down Essa and sort of Tiffin, and I know the downtown has done it, and I think they look awesome. So and I know Innisfil did it as well, and I mean, Deb probably knows more about it because she was involved with the downtown, or they were involved, and I just think there's something to put there rather than having a gray box. So,
and even
Kathy, sure.
I was going to say, even like down on the side of like in downtown, on the side, I think it's on the side of Donnelly's, like the side of the building on Donnelly's, there is some nice artwork that's been done. I think it's Donnelly's, I'm not sure. But, at the, like, Craig, when you're talking about Essa and Tiffin, on the side of the building that's Weigland, the Weigland Law Firm, right at the corner there. So, when you turn the corner and you're going toward the farmhouse, that whole wall on the side of that building would be a perfect spot, because when people are coming to visit and we're backed up in traffic, they would have something to look at on the wall.
Yeah, I think that is certainly
that's like a blank
bigger
canvas
piece than what Jim or what Craig was talking about.
Yeah.
But I think just following up on Craig's idea, I'm just wondering, we've got Jim and Craig on that item. Excuse me. And I think you're right, Craig. I think the first thing to do would be to make a list of 5 or 6 of them, and then Thomas, somebody in, I think, the city's engineering department coordinated the ones that were done downtown, and it would be worthwhile for you to have a discussion with that person to see what's involved in how to get those wraps done.
Thomas,
Craig?
sorry to say, Thomas, you putting it in culture days. I know you can just cut and paste, so I just wanted to let you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thomas has got 8 editors.
Chair, I was just going to suggest or ask if the committee would be interested in having somebody from the Public Art Committee come to us and educate us a little bit on this process, because I've only been involved in one public art sort of mural, which is the construction hoarding at Sophia and Bayfield. And that was a learning exercise experience for me. So I think the committee would benefit, and there's definitely some collaboration, some synergy between the 2 committees. So I would just make that recommendation.
Yeah,
I see some heads nodding there. Kathy?
And I had actually, when you just reminded me, when you mentioned hoarding at Sophia, I had actually sent an email to Celeste Get Symmetry about that for the new tall buildings on Dunlop where the uptown theater is, or where the old theater is when the fencing goes up around there, if they could tell the story of what was there to what is coming there with a bit of history. And that was supposed to be passed along, I thought, to you, Thomas, but I'm not sure. Have you seen it? Or
I may have.
Okay.
Kathy, I'm not entirely sure if it happened in the last 24 hours, I'd probably remember.
Oh, yeah, no.
If
No,
it happened any later than that, then
No, it was a while ago. So I was having a discussion with her probably a month ago and sent an email about
it does
that.
ring a bell because I remember Celeste and I connected on something, and I believe she passed it on to the property owner,
Right.
or the developer, because right now our construction hoarding policies and guidelines aren't entirely all there. So we're sort of working with the property owner or the developer to make that happen rather than it being a requirement of development. So I believe she did get that, because my mind is saying yes, and that's what she said.
Okay.
I know it's a problem, right? You have good memory. It's just short.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Just a quick comment. I know you can't see me, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. I raised my hand, sorry. Just on that item, obviously it's an exciting item, public art, historic murals, locations. I mean, it obviously will require some funding. I'm wondering, is this a 2022 item as far as date? And in the first kind of things we have to do would be determine the cost of doing one of these. Because who knows if are we going to pay for art, which is probably ideal because you're putting art community, and you're going to obviously have the wrap and whatever else. So I think the first item, obviously, in the items that we need to do would be determine the cost of doing one, and then plan for the budget accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Harris. Thomas, is that something you could explore with your colleagues? I know that the downtown work would give us some pretty good ideas as to what the cost would be.
The costs are it's not cheap. Let's just say that I know that the mural on or the hoarding on Bayfield Sophia cost $4,000, and it was considered to be a deal because it was a young artist and it was somebody who was looking to get their name out there and use it for their portfolio. So I think something of that size would probably be considerably more. But again, I think that would be something that, somebody from the Public Art Committee could, we could ask them a bunch of questions and they would just know right off the top of their head of how to go about finding somebody to do public art, what are good locations, because we may find, a bunch of things that we think, oh, this is a great sort of canvas for us, and they may say, those are actually terrible ideas. So I do want to just echo Councillor Harris's comments that at this stage, we're in March. What's the likelihood of us having something done by the end of the year? I don't know, because we're going to get into like October, November, and you probably can't do that stuff at that point. So I just changed the language in here to explore the feasibility of more public art, and make this a 2021 item, but in 2022, but in 2021, we'll do all the prep work to get ourselves informed, to find out the costs, find people to do it and all that other stuff. And then in 2022, we just sort of sign on the dotted line and get it done.
I think that's a really good suggestion. Any other comments?
I can just quickly add, sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
sure.
And as Kathy noted, we were just kind of chatting in the opening, the McLaren is starting to get into a projection art, which so as we look forward, it may not be paint on a building, but it may be able to be projection. So in which is easier to manage and activate. So certainly that could be something. And with me being on the McLaren, happy to work with Craig as we move through this, but to see what type of art installations can be utilized, because it might not be brush to brick or brush to canvas. It could be light to wall kind of thing. So anyway,
Yeah, in fact, I'm working on one at the moment, and it's they painted on 4x8 sheets, and then they tack them on the wall and put them all together. So there's all kinds of ways to do these things. Kathy, I thought I saw your hand. Yes.
Yeah. Just the one, I think Craig was interested in the wraps, right? For the utility boxes. Craig, is that what you?
Yeah.
So my understanding, and I think Deb Excel is still on the call somewhere, that all that was required for that in particular was the Barrie Historical Archive, and Deb can speak to this, provided the artwork or the pictures to the city, and I think it was a graffiti abatement group that reached out. And then they just, had those pictures put on sort of the plastic wrap, I guess it is. So I can't see that being too expensive. And, just for, the box at Tiffin and Essa in this year.
Well,
I don't think that's a huge cost, that one.
Well, let's do the exploratory work, and if you're correct and it's really cheap, then maybe we can afford to do one or two this year. But otherwise, we can put it as a 2020 item, 2022 item. Okay. Anything else in that? Thomas, carry on. What else do we have left?
I think there is just military heritage tree planting, and I think the only thing we wanted just to know is there any sort of financial contribution to that? Because I think in terms of resources, we're just going to likely contribute some committee member time. If there's going to be like a tree planting event, I think we'd probably want to go to that. But is there any financial commitment we wanted to make towards that?
Okay, Craig.
Yeah, I talked to the forestry, and I was connecting also with Nature Barrie, and I'll call them next week again, because maybe it's just the weather and they're sort of delaying, but they were very interested, and I don't know if there'll be a cost. I think they definitely want to do it. So maybe they're going to connect with some of the service groups and things like that, but they're definitely very interested. And, I'll contact them next week and I'll report back what I hear next meeting. It might be, we might need a few of us with shovels in hands, maybe. So.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave it as unknown or undetermined.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. And we'll talk more about that next meeting, Craig. We'll put it on the agenda. Okay. Anything else on there?
There was a couple of other items. A couple is probably not the correct term. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. These are still items that we sort of discussed as being possible for something that we would work on. And I emailed the chair about this, is that the list of items that we're already looking at doing for 2021 is already ambitious. We already have 17 items on there. I don't know if we want to entertain more.
I think you're right. I think that we can, if we sort of shotgun everything, we're likely not to hit any targets. And I'd far sooner focus our attention on a few things and get those done. And then next year we do some more. All right. I can't see everybody, but any comments, questions? Kathy.
I was just going to say, so Thomas, do you know whether we're going to, at this point, whether we're going to get a summer student?
I don't think the committee will have a summer student. I think the planning department will have a summer student, the development services department will have a summer student, and they may be assigned to help me on certain things. Right. But it's not like we have a dedicated person.
Okay, one of the things that in looking at the guide to plaques and markers in the city, and it looks like you're saying maybe a summer student. One of the things that they did with that originally, if you look through and read through it, is it looked like other departments also reviewed it and updated things that pertain to them. So when there's stuff like Mona Boyd actually did a lot of work on that as well. So, you know, it might be something that if we can figure out certain sections of it, that we just send them and say, Mona, whatever pertains to your department, could you give us an idea of what needs to be updated? I don't know if that's something, because it looks like that's how that document was done in the first place, that it was not just from us, it was from other departments as well.
It's possible. I would just be honest with the committee and say that I'm extremely limited in terms of my resources to do anything else. There was one other item that Kaylee and David have both expressed interest in, which would be item number 23, information plaques for gateways to historic neighborhoods.
Right.
And Kaylee had sent out, you know, a number of suggestions, and that was the only thing I was going to suggest that we push up into something that we could look at doing, you know, putting together information on for in 2021, and then potentially actually executing in 2022.
Right.
Because we have 2 committee members who are volunteering to do this, where this is something that nobody's really volunteered for, and it does require staff time. So I was going to say, let's just defer that to next year if we could.
Okay. Well, Kaylee and David, is item 23 something that you want to tackle this year? Kaylee.
I think we could get at least a start, sort of like we are doing with the other thing, getting an idea of cost and sort of a better idea of how we want to go about it, and then be able to maybe implement it next year.
Okay. All right. And I got a thumbs up from David as well. So why don't we put that one as a green one, and then we will put it in those 2 hands, and you know, maybe by, you know, whenever you're ready in a month or 2 or 3, you could come back to the committee and give us a little report on an update on where you're at. Okay. Any other things on the work plan?
That's it, Chair. I think we're just likely have to just keep tabs on this. Again, this work plan is a work plan for the committee, but it is largely committee member driven. So I support things that require contacting vendors and spending money, and I work with Tammy on those sorts of things. But really, it's the committee who's going to make this happen. So, for example, like Craig going out and talking to Owen Signcraft and doing that sort of thing is, you know, I relied on him to be able to do that, and he got the ball rolling, and I just sort of got it over the finish line. And we do have 4 plaques ordered, and they are on their way. They're being made sort of as we speak. Yeah. So I'll try to bring this item to the committee just as a reminder that we have to look at it and update it every now and then, and sort of check in to see where we are.
Actually, now that we've got it up to date, if you wouldn't mind emailing it as it is to everybody, and then everybody will have it, and they can refer to it. And I guess I had one request, if possible. Is there a way to make it so that it'll print on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper?
I believe so. Let me see what I've got as a layout.
Okay, you know, I mean, there's no panic about it. It's just if you could send it out, that would be helpful. And for me, I'm still the old pen and paper guy, so if I could print it, that would even be better.
Yeah, it is tabloid size at the moment, so I'd have to shrink it somehow.
Okay. either that, or maybe you just have to tell me how to do it, and that's fine too.
Okay.
Deb, your hand is up in the screen, and I wanted to, your turn to talk.
Yeah, sorry, I've had my hand up for a while, but I guess you couldn't see me when I was.
I couldn't see it. No, sorry.
Just a comment about the traffic box wraps. That project's only was launched, a few months ago. So far, it looks like it's successful. I haven't seen any graffiti on those boxes. So maybe it's not going to cost us anything if it's a worthwhile project, it's delivering results. They may just roll out more wraps to traffic boxes, and we can say we're heroes. Look at all the heritage stuff we've done, but just wanted to make that comment that we might not have to fund anything. They may do it for us if it looks like it's working.
Yeah, I think that's a really good possibility, and it seems to me that if Craig can find 5 or 6 locations, and then we can put it to these folks, and especially if they're in, say, the Allendale area, and if we could get pictures that are historic of that area, that would be kind of neat. So we're going to try to follow up on that, because I think that is a great idea. All right, let's move to the next item, and that's the 2021 County of Simcoe Tourism and Sports Grant. Who wanted to talk about that? Is that you, Thomas, or is that somebody else?
Yes, yes, it is you, Thomas.
No, but
because it's due. It's available to reapply again, and you have to apply by the end of March. And I had sent a note to Thomas saying, can we just dust off what was sent last year, because we're still looking for it, with just an updated date on it. We don't really have to do any work on it, but just update it. And it was sent out, and I think it was signed off by Michelle Banfield last year and sent. So can we do that? And can we get that in before the end of March?
all right, Thomas, I think that was a challenge that was sent to your direction.
Yes, as a committee member, committee members drive the bus, so I am just here to support. So yes, Kathy did bring it up, that it is out. I haven't looked at the application we put together last year, but we can certainly just sort of rebrand it for 2021, and I could revise it as needed. I don't think it'll take me very long, and just submit it. I think what you said, by the 31st, Kathy?
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you would do that, Thomas, that would be much appreciated. All right. Our next item is, excuse me, demolition control in historic neighborhoods. And Kathy asked that we talk about that a bit tonight, and I certainly can, but Thomas, did you want to lead that one off, or do you want me to?
Again, am I on mute? Oh, no. I was just going to suggest that the committee member who brought it forward speak to the matter. I think I did voice my opinion to the committee, but I want to do that after some context has been given. So I would defer to Kathy on that.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, Kathy.
So the reason I sort of brought this forward was because of what's happening in the real estate market. And I, with the number of historic homes that are being sold, and in a lot of cases, when you actually look at the real estate listings, it says things like, good for investor contractors if you want to flip, tear down, build bigger. I had concerns about how do we protect those homes during this period of time where the market is going crazy, like it's never done before, because everybody's trying to move out of the city and move up here. And tonight, in fact, I was looking for a particular house that I heard was on for sale at William and Cumberland. Jim and Barb's house, Craig, is up for sale. And when I got on the real estate MLS listings, I was shocked again at the numbers of homes. There's got to be 20 to 30 homes, century homes, that are up for sale now that are probably running between $700,000 and $1 million. And I know in following a couple of them, I was really concerned that they were going to be sold and torn down. And one of them was, so 230 Kempenfeld Drive was one that was awarded a number of years ago. And the first real estate offer they got, in fact, when the real estate agent asked them what they were going to do with the house, they said they were going to demolish it. And they did not sell to that person because they did not want the house demolished. But there's nothing to stop somebody from coming along and saying, oh, I want to live in it, and then 5 minutes later tearing it down. So, you know, I'm concerned about what's happening. And I'm just wondering if there's some way that we can put a moratorium, was my question, a moratorium, just a temporary moratorium until official plan is approved by council and in place, because there's more protection by the looks of it in the new draft official plan that would help, because there's more wording around encouraging, you know, not demolishing. And, you know, a lot of these properties are affordable housing is the other thing. So I don't know how to address it. So that was just because I know the city of Toronto has done this in the past, where they actually put a moratorium in place to allow their heritage group to sort of get an inventory in place to understand what was happening. And I know it's been done before. So that's my, because I think we should be doing something.
All right.
We should be advising council of something, and I don't know what that looks like.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Sorry?
Actually, I was going to say 62 Shirley Street. Does that ring a bell, Thomas? Is that house designated?
Yes.
I didn't get a check. Okay, so that one is up for sale right now. And that one is, I think that one's listed at something crazy like 999,000. I'm pretty sure nobody's going to buy that to knock that one down, but you never know.
All right. Anybody else comments, thoughts on that? Councillor Harris.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the sentiment. I'm wondering if a concern for the possibility of how someone chooses to use what they purchase is enough to act on, that we're worried. I don't know if there's any evidence that there's a significant increase of interest in demolishing buildings, pardon me. But I appreciate the sentiment. Thomas, I'm wondering, Thomas, if it's even, Kathy spoke of precedent. Is it even legally enforceable? If I buy a building with my intention, there might be a pause, but I can still proceed with my intention. There's just going to be some time and red tape in the way.
That's a good question, Councillor, to the chair. To be truthful, I don't know. I don't exactly know what the implications of and how would the city would go about actually implementing such a moratorium. I don't necessarily think it's a great idea to put a blanket moratorium on demolitions, because there are some older buildings throughout the city that could be qualified as historic buildings, but there's no way to recover them back to their state. Oh, yeah. And they will sit there in that state until they are demolished, and until they are demolished and something affordable is built. And usually you'll get walk-ups going and things like that, which provide more affordable housing than that could be possible there. So there's just a flip side to the same argument, Kathy, you're making. Mm-hmm. So and I'm not saying that to disagree. It's just, I think there is more to consider and more to investigate before making a suggestion to pass a moratorium. Right. And I don't know the legal implications of that. I know that the Ontario Building Code has ways to, for an applicant who's looking to demolish or looking to build, if there's a delay in that process, I know that there is sort of like a development review board that would be established and things like that, that would rule on permits being issued or not. So I don't know the ins and outs of that, because it is, again, because it's Ontario Building Code, it's not in the planning wheelhouse. So there's nothing in the official plan, there's nothing in the zoning bylaw, there's nothing in the site plan control bylaw that would stop that from happening. It would have to be some sort of prohibition, some sort of bylaw passed by the city, and you would have to define areas, you know, which buildings and things like that, and it would require months of work, if I'm honest, to get that done. I do recognize that it is that your concern is legitimate. I don't want to undermine what you're saying. It's just that there's a lot more to this.
So then,
I think as well, I agree with the sentiment. I think the practicality is the next part, and the problem comes is what the law says, and I'm not sure that the city has the power to actually pass a bylaw that says under certain circumstances you can't demolish a building. We certainly can pass what's called an interim control bylaw, which is a zoning bylaw. And it says, you know, you can't build whatever it is that you don't want built in the city. And some of that was done as part of cannabis, for example, that you can't have a cannabis store in this area. And we didn't do it, but other municipalities did. But, you know, that kind of bylaw doesn't even doesn't have the power to say, you know, you shall not tear this building down. The only avenue that I'm aware of that is truly effective is under the Heritage Act, and that is by designating a building. Even listing doesn't do it.
nor does
I think that
designating.
under designation, then at least you have a delay and there's a process involved. And to my mind, I think that that's the route that we need to go more. If we have concerns, then I think it's incumbent on us as a committee to make recommendations to council to designate buildings. And we've talked about it before, you know, the Flatiron Building, the churches, you know, some of these rural schools and things like that. So, you know, it seems to me that, you know, we really need to work on that aspect. And that's probably going to be more successful than anything else. Kathy.
Okay, so what I had thought about after is, you know, today I was thinking about it, and maybe another way to go about trying to do something, given the unprecedented sales. And it's not just all of Century Homes. And I certainly recognize that if it's a home that's not in good shape, I mean, you know, people, they should be, if it's unsafe and nobody is going to make it look any better, and it, you know, somebody wants to come along and build, that's fine. I have no issue with that. But if all of a sudden people are going to be demolishing because they're larger lots and they want to put up bigger buildings, I do have a problem with that. But I think one of the things that, and that's just my personal opinion. So, but one of the things maybe we could do, Thomas or Claire, is could we send a letter to BDAR, to the Barrie District Real Estate Association, and just say something like, you know, that we've noticed the number of Century Homes that are going up for sale, and we would like to reach out and educate them on the SIP program and the listing program and the designating program.
Well,
Because I've actually been doing that, and that's how 90 William Street came about, which we're going to talk about, I think, down the road, is I have been talking to real estate agents, and they are open to that, and some of them aren't educated. So if Heritage Barrie, under the city, Heritage Barrie sent a letter, just, and I don't know what the wording is, but just, to say that we're seeing a lot of century homes up for sale. We thought we'd reach out, educate you a little bit. Here's some information about, listed properties, designated properties, and some incentives for new homeowners that are coming, so that the real estate people can even tell the new people that are buying properties what's available.
We can certainly send letters. I guess my Councillor Harris is laughing about that because that's kind of an inside joke.
Okay, do you guys sit on BDR?
we spend a lot of money on stamps, and I don't know how much we got. But I'm thinking actually, Kathy, that you're probably onto something that's a good idea. The thought that I'm having is that we should put a package together so that we know what we're going to tell the real estate board, and then send the letter, or send the package with the real estate board together with an invitation for them to come and meet with us if that's possible. So I'm just wondering if somebody would volunteer to put a package together that we might give
Thomas?
to a realtor, and with a covering letter, and that way we have, because rather than just send a letter, I think we need to have sort of what it is that we're going to educate them about with it, or be prepared to produce it, or be prepared to meet with them in order to have that discussion. Thomas, somebody pointed at you.
I saw that, Chair, and I think I can certainly help with the sending of the letters out and putting things on letterhead and finalizing the letter. But in terms of putting together an outline and some draft content, I would look to the committee to provide that to me, and then I would again push that over the edge to get it done.
All right. So Kathy, this is the problem with making suggestions.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest that you draft something and that you then send it to Thomas and myself, and between us we will kind of wordsmith it and finalize it and get it out. Is that acceptable to you?
Yeah, that's perfect. Do we want to send it around to the rest of the group for comment before you draft and finalize it? Or should I just
send it to Thomas and myself first, and we'll kind of figure it out, and then for sure I'll circulate it before it goes out. That's for sure.
Yeah, when I looked at the real estate listings, I'm not kidding you, there was probably at least 30, if not more, beautiful, like really beautiful century homes up. But boy, it's good. It's good for the real estate market. It's good for business. It's good for the real estate market for sure.
Yeah. Councillor Harris.
I just wanted to recognize Kathy for this initiative. As potentially problematic the idea of that moratorium was, this is a really positive, productive, proactive measure. So I just wanted to say that's a great idea, Kathy. So thanks for bringing that forward. That's really, I think it's really progressive. So thank you.
Yeah, I might say that the one house that Kathy mentioned is a couple of houses over from me. And that's what we heard exactly as well, is that the first offer they got, the people were going to knock it down. And it's a lovely house. And I really applaud these folks for not selling and insisting that the house be kept. And so now we have new neighbors, and I hope that they're very happy in that house for a long time.
Yeah.
All right. The next item is development applications under review, and that's Thomas.
That is me, Chair. Thank you very much. So I have a number of pre-consultation applications throughout the city that I'm providing heritage comments on. Nothing that has been deemed complete recently. We had found out that I was not being circulated on all applications. Recently, there was just a glitch in our system. So there was one that was missed that I didn't get involved in, but we sort of caught it retroactively, but there's nothing for me to bring forward to the committee to request comments on or thoughts on at this time.
Thomas, may I ask you, are any of those applications that you have seen, and I know that they're still in the very preliminary stages, are any of them going to give this committee heartburn?
Did you say heartburn?
Yes.
A heart attack.
I cannot say. I think you know what it is. It is fair to say that to Kathy's point, in that real estate market has exploded, and that there's lots of development interest out there. Not a lot of it has materialized into new actual applications. Only several have. And you know, people are looking around. Interest rates are low, and you know, there's lots of people shopping around and consolidating properties. So. Just looking at the addresses that I see here, nothing is going to be shocking. I think there may be one in one of our heritage neighborhoods that may require committee input, but there's nothing that is like next to a designated building or demolishing designated buildings or things like that. There may be some developments happening around historic neighborhoods, such as like 19 Don Donald. Everybody knows about that. That's not adjacent to a mapped cultural heritage resource, but it is within a neighborhood. So I am involved in that project from the side of implementing the city's, in effect, land use policies, and not really anything related to the Ontario Heritage Act.
All right. Okay. So that means that if these projects come to fruition, then we may be busier than we are now, but at the moment, there's nothing to report. All right, the status of potential listings to the Municipal Heritage Register.
That would be, again, me, Chair. And just before we move on, I just wanted to let the committee know that through the pre-consultation process, if something does come to fruition as an actual development application, all of those should have come through me, and they would be supported by heritage impact studies if required, or new types of studies. For example, we have a study in our historic neighborhood area that's called, I'm going to get it wrong, historic neighborhood character impact evaluation. That's in our current official plan, and it applies to the historic neighborhoods. So some applications, if they do come forward, they will be required to provide that as a complete application. So the committee will have something to review and react to, rather than just saying,
No.
what are you doing? What's going on? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's useful.
Yeah.
Okay, so jumping back to, we actually have 2 applications for listing. One came in just this morning, so I thought I'd throw it on the agenda, and Tammy may yell at me, but I think this is a standing item on the agenda. We can add items to it as we move on. So this is actually for 125 Dunlop Street East in Barrie. This is actually Bohemia.
Yeah.
Everybody's familiar with this. Is a historic building, part of the Boys Block right downtown. So there's actually 123 Dunlop, which is Jador, is a designated property, and this building is immediately adjacent to that building. It looks as though it's one building from the street, because it has, you know what, I'm just going to share my screen. Just 1 second, please. Hopefully that works. Sometimes these things don't work for me. You should be seeing my screen. So we've got Bohemia right on the center, Jador on the right. So I did do some research into this with our legal department, because I was erroneously assumed that both buildings were designated, because they look the same, and I thought it was the same building, but it's actually not. It's just the 123 Dunlop that's designated. So if we get this on the listing, it'll, you know, it'll start to expand that how much of this building is protected, and it is unique because, as you can see, this brickwork is very unique, and
the windows.
and yeah, the windows are unique too. I don't know if that's
faces.
original in there.
Yeah.
It's potentially it could be. Yeah. And I know that there's some work on the interior that needs to be done. So the applicant is looking to add the property so that they can apply for the CIP and help maintain the property over the long term.
Yeah.
Well, so it would be my recommendation that this building be added to the register. And
is it? Are they looking to list it, or can we convince them to designate it just like the building next door?
At this point, I think the property owner is looking just to list. I don't think they're against designating, but that's just that's nothing they said. In case they're watching, it's just my my gut feeling for when I did connect with them that not against it, but they're not for it. They're looking to list at this time.
Sure, and gut feelings are fine. I guess I guess we could certainly have a motion to list that building, and then I would hope that you could follow up with them and see if they would be interested in having it designated, simply because the building next door, which really they look like twins, identical twins. You know, it'd be great to have both of them designated. Anyway, any discussion on 125 Dunlop East?
Yay!
So
we vote?
Beautiful. I think we need a motion on that. And we can combine that with 90 William Street. Any discussion on 90 William? I don't, because the screen is up, I don't see everything. So
did they? Thomas, just out of curiosity, with either of these applications, did they send you any photos from inside? No. Okay.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion then to add 90 William Street and 125 Dunlop East to the city's list of listed properties? Craig? Great, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? I can't see the one. The only ones I saw were in favor, so I'm going to rule that that was carried. So thank you for that. All right, Craig, I saw your
one
hand.
thing.
There you go.
I mean, I think it's awesome that they're listing it. That 90 Holgate, you know, William, it'd be nice. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful home, and it's obviously artists live there. I mean, I would wonder if they would consider, you know, once we tell them that maybe designating it. I mean, that's a really important house. So I think it's great they've listed it. It's just bring up that conversation maybe.
Yes, I would second that, because I think that on both of those buildings, they are certainly candidates for designation. And if you wouldn't mind, you know, Thomas, just following up on that, you know, have a chat and see what their thoughts are. And Thomas, go ahead.
Absolutely can do that, Chair. And I just wanted to recognize that Kathy, I was answering your question, but I was on mute. So yeah. Noob move, but no, I didn't get any new photographs, but I just wanted to remind the committee that Kathy did send photographs of the property when it was listed on MLS, and I think it was through John Lawler, so you may be able to go on his webpage to see pictures on that. And one thing that really stuck out to me for this building in particular, for 90 William Street, was that on the inside of the door hinges, there was engravings, which blew my mind. So that is amazing craftsman work that we don't probably never going to see again.
Yeah,
that's it for me, Chair.
Oh yeah, hey, we have some amazing stuff here in the city.
Yeah, we do. And the like even today, I was peeking around on some of the virtual tours on some of the real estate listings, and that's how I got to see the insides of some of those homes. And boy, oh boy, we've got a lot of beautiful architecture in Barrie, both outside and inside those homes.
we probably should keep those virtual tours somehow and save us a lot of trouble when we come to list them or designate them.
Well, I think
It'd be really nice to have all of that on our sort of wish list, you know,
yeah.
inventory.
On the, I think in the book, in the walking tour guide, there's like quite a bit of a description on 90 William, which would help with the designation even, or the listing is like, because there's a description about one of the, was it Holgate that lived in that house? Craig? Holgate, I think. Right, one of the group of 7. So.
Yeah, so if that doesn't rank, I don't know what else.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, while we're on the subject of designating and listing, I saw a fair bit of discussion on the Armory, and I just wondered, Thomas, you're following up with them in terms of trying to see who's in charge of that. It seems like it's federally designated. Does it matter if we designate it municipally? Does it change anything, or do you know anything about that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, to answer your question, I have been being bounced around between Parks Canada and D&D. So I'm just waiting to my email to land to the last desk. I don't know if it will be of any benefit to designate the building that's already federally recognized and owned by the D&D. I think perhaps if the building was being sold, if it was no longer being used by D&D, we may be interested, we may want to designate it under the provincial legislation. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. That building is used by D&D pretty much full time. So it's up to the committee. You know, it could be a municipal recognition. It's our building. Yes, it's owned by D&D, but it's part of Barrie's cultural heritage fabric. So it's definitely do it if we wish to.
Yeah, and I think I would pursue it actually, and let's see where that goes, because it like you say, it may at some point want to be sold, and then we'd have some control over it. And I suppose the other part of it is, I mean, the federal government might want to make some improvements to it and come to us for funding. Wouldn't that be a shocker? Okay, Kathy.
I did also have a question about, and I don't know how we would go about doing this, or even, I think that through the Armory, it's sort of an event place as well. So is there any way that we could get this listed within Tourism Barrie, or is there like an event platform in Barrie so that, you know, you can say, if you were looking for an event space that's heritage looking, could we get that Armory? Could the Armory be put on the heritage event listing? You know, so if you're looking for something like right now, like the McLaren Art Center, the original library is listed as a venue. Like there's 6 or 8 venues. If you Google heritage venue, then we could, you know, maybe put the Armory on the heritage venue, and people would be, you know, that's another place. I think Councillor Harris, you were the one who said you used to go to hockey tournaments, or was it hockey tournaments? And different events there that, you know, tournaments were held, like dinners and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, sorry if I could jump in. Yeah, that facility was used for a multitude of community events, no question. So
It's
yeah,
another
I have no idea if they still do it or not, but I mean, nonetheless, part of its history is that it was activated as a community center for sure.
Mm. Yeah, so it'd be a great way to actually bring heritage, like promoting heritage within the city, as we're promoting, you know, a venue.
Sure. Thomas.
Again, Kathy, I agree with your sentiment, but from the sort of practical side of things, you would have essentially the city promoting businesses. We'd be promoting certain businesses over others. I don't know if that's something we we should be doing. And the other thing is that if the Armory is looking to expand its economic holdings and business, then it is on them to market themselves as an event
right.
center. But I want to recognize, I do agree that we want to get information out there about Barrie businesses. It's like one or all type thing. You know, we have to take a kind of consistent blanket approach.
Yeah, and I think that certainly from a Heritage Committee point of view, we're a bit outside of our scope of reference. But Kathy, that doesn't mean that you couldn't go to the tourism folks and personally say, you know, you want to connect with the Armory and see what can be done
As
there.
a venue.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Kathy?
This is actually about the jail. So I'm wondering about designating or listing the jail.
I think that's a
Because
great idea.
There's a lot of conversation out there about doing something with that as well. And
I would be interested to know who owns it.
I was just thinking that myself, Chair, and I can't seem to get back into my VPN, so I can't look that up. But I could do some digging to see who owns that. I want to say it's OPP or it's the Ontario Superior Court of Justice.
no.
All right, Deborah, I thought I saw your hand.
I think it still belongs to the ministry, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Ministry of
Corrections.
Okay.
Hey, that's a
tried to
local
get
owner
rid
of a jail, I guess.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
think it's still a government facility.
Yeah.
It's deemed unsafe, so nobody's allowed in. So, but I think that's it. I think they're waiting for it to just crumble.
And I
Kaylee?
think
I was thinking it was designated.
No.
not municipally, no, not under the
No.
Ontario Heritage Act.
And frankly, I think it probably should be.
Yeah.
I would love to see that building used for something. I think it would be, I mean, it's probably a horrendously expensive to put it into any kind of condition, but you know, what a great restaurant or
Right. Yep.
or a museum or who knows what it would be, you know. But it would really we could really do something with it. But
Great Halloween party.
Yeah.
You definitely have to have some deep pockets.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, you know, if we did do that, then we could start looking at funding grants that are out there. That, you know, whether they're provincial grants that are available or wherever you get your grant money from. And, you know, it would be a project that would probably be years in the making, to be honest. But at least if we got it listed or designated and then started the process, that'd be great.
So, Thomas, if you wouldn't mind just looking up to figure out who owns it. And I think certainly doing a designation on that site, that's definitely something that we should think about.
I will do that, and I'll have an update for the committee next month.
Perfect. All right. Anything else? Well, it's been another. Oh, Deborah.
Deb?
Just to kind of finish that conversation on the jail, there's a lot of, I don't know, emotion and attachment to that building. I think it's something, if there were to be a project around it, I think it's something the community would identify with, you know. And people have something that's they can touch and feel, they're more likely to support, like, you know, buy a brick of the jail or, you know, a brick. It's easy to fundraise around projects like that. And it's the only thing that we have left from when Barrie was the county seat. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's some real potential there. But so let's start doing some groundwork and let's see where it goes. Okay, anything else? Kathy?
There was just something, I think it was a comment around, Craig had said there was a couple of people that were interested in potentially listing their homes. I think it was it 8 Cumberland or 6 Cumberland and 58 William. And then you said something about like how to research the properties. Like maybe we could put something together on it, which I actually did do a while ago. And we actually tried to update it in the beginning. When we first updated the website, we wanted to link that information, but I think there was an issue with putting links in. So from a research perspective, we were saying, reach out to the Barrie Public Library, and here's the link to the historical records, and Simcoe County Archives, and here's the link, the land registry office, here's the link with information. So I still have that, and I can send that, send it to the list of our group and just say, is there other stuff that I'm not looking at that people like Deb might have more information to put on it?
I think there's like a 1 or 2 page document, and I thought I got mine from the Simcoe County Archives, and it was like, if you want to research your home, here's all the resources.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
And if we could put it, on the Heritage, on our a link on the registry page.
Yep, we can absolutely do
that
that.
information, that would be great. And then
Okay,
also,
so why don't Kathy and Deb pull your documents together and circulate them to the committee, and we'll just put it on the agenda as an information item for next time.
Yeah.
Correct.
I was just gonna say, anything that we can help people do this, to make it as easy, like people don't like looking up forms and not everyone likes this. So the easiest we could do, the better, because then more people are more likely to do it. So.
Yeah.
well,
No, I agree. And those 2 that you were talking about, I mean, while they might be interested for their own interested research, are they also interested in listing their properties?
well, yeah.
Yeah,
Because that would, let's get that done. And if we can do that for next meeting, that'd be great.
But,
Okay.
and
Kathy.
the other comment Thomas made was like, we don't really have the resources to do that kind of work amongst us.
Yeah.
But there are people you can hire. Like if somebody was really interested and wanted work done, you can reach out and have a researcher do the work for you as well. And for somebody that professionally does that, it probably doesn't take a third of the time. Whereas, when I tried to look at stuff for my house, I got sucked down the rabbit hole, and, you're at it for hours on end.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All it takes is money, Kathy.
Yeah.
All right. Any other items? Very good. Then we'll adjourn and we will see you next month. Thank you for a terrific meeting and lots of great ideas. And I think we moved the ball forward a bit again tonight. So we'll do that again tomorrow night or next month.
Yeah, great job, Thomas, today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
Very much.
Okay, it's time for a pint.
Yeah.
Have a
All right.
pint or a glass of wine now.
All right.
Good night, everybody. Thanks very
Very
much.
much.
Bye-bye.
Good night.